NTC News Tonight is produced at the Northern Television Center by journalism students in the Department of Communication.
Tonight, why you might have to spend more money to visit a state park. Driving downtown may get a little dicey this summer, and 2 firefighters in Philadelphia make the ultimate sacrifice. NTC News Tonight starts now.
From the Northern Television Center at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, you're watching DeKalb County's only television news source. This is NTC News Tonight.
State parks in Illinois are trying to catch up with their runaway budgets. Good evening, I'm Fiorela, Kola, and thanks for joining us.
But their ideas are going to have you digging further into your pockets for some family fun. I'm Jorge Rodas. Mitch Kasich is out to tell you where the park fees will hit hardest.
It's a beautiful day at Shabana Lake where boaters like this man are unhitching his boat. Him and many others are used to paying for their boat rentals, but now they're going to have to pay just to get into the park. With a $16 million deficit, Illinois state parks are losing money.
For us, 1998 was kind of our high water mark, and we've been getting gradual cuts ever since then.
Budget cuts are putting the squeeze on the park, especially for these campers.
Over 400,000 people camp here every year. The state parks could use the revenue generated from these campers, but the people here aren't as excited about paying an extra fee.
I think it stinks. You know, if they want to take money from us, you know, that's not right, not for a state park.
But with the park understaffed and in need of repairs, the money needs to be collected some way.
I mean, they do need more help. They do a fantastic job for what they do. I mean, the park's clean and everything. But I know they're always struggling to get everything done, and they can't keep up with all the repairs.
Without the manpower to keep trails like this and campgrounds like this maintained, a simple campfire or a picnic will have families paying up or packing out. For NTC News, I'm Mitch Kasich, Shabana Lake.
Thanks, Mitch. The state Senate still has to approve this fee.
A Seattle man who's charged with raping an Illinois teenager 50 years ago will have his case decided by a judge, not a jury. Jury selection was set to begin today in the case of Jack McCullough, who was accused of assaulting the then 14-year-old Sycamore girl in 1961 and 1962.
A summer railroad project might force you to find a different way around town. The city temporarily closed 1st and 2nd Streets today as part of a continuing project. Union Pacific Railroad is upgrading the railroad beds to raise the tracks back to street level. The construction is a standard project Union Pacific does periodically. The changes in weather tend to affect the railroad tracks. The Union Pacific is planning on doing more repairs in the summer.
The NIU Women's Resource Center is looking to save money this prom and formal season. The center will begin giving away new or gently used prom dresses all throughout April to cut the cost and time of finding a dress, which can be stressful. Students can pick up a dress from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. from the Women's Resource Center located on 105 Normal Road.
NIU students and their families are invited to join the Spring Family Weekend coming up the last weekend of April. Families can join in on activities including a dinner and dance show.
The trial is underway for the man accused of killing Jennifer Hudson's family.
And more claims of sexual misconduct against a former high school coach. These are today's state lines. Two more girls have come forward to accuse a former cheerleading coach in Chicago's north suburbs of sexual misconduct. 30-year-old Jeffrey Tax is facing trial in DuPage County on a charge of sexual exploitation of a child. He's a former coach at Niles North High School in Skokie.
Jury selection is underway in the Chicago murder case of a man who's accused of killing the mother, brother, and 7-year-old nephew of singer and Oscar-winning actress Jennifer Hudson. William Balfour faces a maximum of life sentence if he's convicted.
Students in 6 Illinois schools will learn math and science through model wind turbines and weather balloons next year. The Illinois Wind for Schools program is a partnership with several state universities. The selected schools will get model wind turbines, experimental weather balloons, and a curriculum on wind energy.
Chicago and Cook County are joining forces to provide summer jobs and other opportunities to help keep young people safe over the summer. The One Summer Chicago program announced it will be providing 17,000 summer jobs and 168,000 education and recreational opportunities for kids. And those are today's state lines.
Well, the Navy is trying to make it up to the families who lost their homes after last week's fighter jet crash.
And firefighters die in Philadelphia. Here's what's happening today's World Watch. Two Philadelphia firefighters are dead after a wall collapsed on them while they were fighting a massive early morning warehouse fire. 5 firefighters say 5 firefighters were inside a furniture store next to a vacant warehouse where the wall collapsed, trapping them this morning.
Well, the Navy is starting to provide compensation to people whose apartments were hit by a military jet that crashed into a Virginia Beach apartment complex. Dozens of apartment units were destroyed when the F-18 Hornet careened into the complex, but no one died. Residents aren't being allowed back until the cleanup is complete.
There may be a link between obesity in pregnant women and autism in children. A study released today says obese pregnant women were 67% more likely to have autistic children than were pregnant women of a normal weight. Previous research has linked obesity during pregnancy with stillbirths, preterm births, and some birth defects.
Some New Jersey taxpayers aren't happy about footing the security bill for the late singer Whitney Houston. The final tab is more than $185,000. Opponents argue the late singer's family should have paid for its own security rather than Newark paying for overtime for nearly 200 police officers. Council members say police protection and barricades were necessary to keep back crowds that swarmed the area during the funeral. And that's today's World Watch.
You know, I'm happy to see that it's finally sunny, but it's pretty chilly.
Yeah, Phil Bush is here now with weather. Is the sunshine going to be sticking around?
We will see sunny skies the rest of the week, but unfortunately those wind gusts will remain with us as well. Taking a look at tomorrow's highs, we can see that there's high 40s to low 50s around the area. It's going to be windy throughout the entire northern Illinois. Stay tuned for a closer look at the weather. You're watching NTC News Tonight.
Sergeant Smith, come on over.
Along with weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
Welcome back. We had a pretty gusty day today, reaching winds up to 40 miles per hour. At least we reached that high temperature of 62 degrees, not too far off this normal of 56 degrees we're used to seeing this time of year. At least we're not back in 1997. They saw a record low of 18 degrees, but we are going to be pretty cold ourselves overnight. It's going to reach down to 32 degrees, the freezing point. Radar, we can see that there's not much happening in our area, but as we take a look at the eastern United States, we are going to see over New York this area of precipitation push out through the rest of this week. Today we did see this low pressure area brought with it a pretty gusty winds and this cold front pushing down into tonight. It will push down through Oklahoma and Texas, bringing with it some precipitation tomorrow and into tomorrow night. But on to Wednesday, we see this cold front will merge with this warm front, bringing this stationary front and some areas of precipitation throughout the entire southern United States. Going back to our area, we see that it's going to be mostly clear tonight. That temperature will drop down to the freezing point with these wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour, which will bring with some patchy frost into tomorrow morning. Looking at tomorrow, we can see that it's going to be high of 48 degrees, not quite the temperature we're used to seeing today, especially with these wind gusts up to 30 miles per hour. It might feel pretty cold. You might want to get out that extra jacket. Looking at tomorrow night, we are going to see this low will drop down below the freezing point with these wind gusts, so there is a chance of frost onto Wednesday morning. Taking a look at the 5-day forecast, we are going to see the sun throughout the week, and these temperatures are going to continue to build up into the weekend. But unfortunately, on Friday and Saturday, we are going to have this chance of rain and showers. But Saturday, we are going to have this temperature reach up to 67 degrees. Now, hopefully, that's a trend we'd like to see the rest of the week next week as well. That's all for weather as we take it back to the desk.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks. Once in a while, you might hear sirens and see lights rushing to emergencies. But have you ever thought of who sent them there? Behind the scenes are a group of people working hard on the phones to get DeKalb the help it needs. Call takers keep callers calm in some of the scariest situations, and dispatchers send out police officers and firefighters to wherever help is needed.
NIU psychology professors released a recent study about these 911 responders showing symptoms of post-traumatic stress.
Yes, and we have NIU Police Sergeant Ellen Smith with us today to share some of the insight of what these officers go through behind the scenes. Good evening, Sergeant.
Good evening.
Yeah, thanks for being with us.
Thanks
Being a police dispatcher can be a high-pressure job. We've seen that from some research done here at the university. What is it exactly that dispatchers do? Take us through a day in their life.
Okay. First of all, they're responsible for everything that goes on. They have to know where every officer is at all times. In addition to that, they feel calls coming in. They have to deal with the radio traffic. They have people coming into the dispatch center wanting things. So their job is to coordinate and make sure that the right people get to the right place in the least amount of time.
So it's a lot of logistics.
It's a lot of logistics.
We've had the opportunity to hear some phone calls, like the case with the Florida teenager in the neighborhood watch captain. It seems like dispatchers have to make some split-second decisions. What would you... some split-second decisions on what to do when they get an emergency call. How do they learn that?
Trial and error. We have a lot of training periods, and we do a lot of what-if scenarios. And also, every call that comes into the dispatch center is recorded. Every phone call, every radio traffic. So those are the best ways of training people to go back to listen to previous calls to see how those were handled. But in addition to that, we train them on all type of situations. We send them to advanced training outside of the department, and we have manuals in there for them to read when they have the chance to.
How long is training?
Typically over 160 hours, but then it's ongoing training. That's just the basic, because in a crisis situation, people fall back to that basic training. So we give them the basic, but then we do advanced training to reiterate everything, to reinforce it.
What would you say is the toughest kind of situation for them to handle?
High stress, because sometimes there's a lull in the break. Sometimes we have everything going on. The stress situations when the phones are ringing, the officers are calling in traffic, people are coming in, but then in addition to that, you have the lull where not much is going on. Then all of a sudden you get a high stress situation, like for instance 4 years ago our shooting incident, then we had several, or two since then. Or we may get a domestic call where somebody is yelling in the background, and so they have to stay calm to reassure them that, okay, help is coming, we'll be there soon. So it's going from when nothing has happened to all of a sudden something major is happening. It's that anticipation.
Do dispatchers become counselors as well to people with mental issues that call in?
Well, we try to send them over to employer assistance or to the counseling center. But while they're on the phone, yes, they have to keep them calm, to get the correct information and let them know. Yes, sometimes people want to hear. They just want somebody to listen to them. So they have to sit there and reassure them. So yes, get the information from them and just put them at ease. At the same time, figuring out who am I going to send there, who's closer, keeping them on the line while help is on the way.
Okay. Well, before you go, we wanted to make mention of the upcoming NIU police auction that will be held April 28th at the east end of Husky Stadium.
What kind of things are being auctioned?
All kind of good stuff. Lots of bikes, but we have iPods, iPhones, cameras, watches, jewelries, other electronic, books, things like that. A couple of years ago, we even had a Rolex.
Wow.
So we get a lot of expensive things.
What time does that start?
It starts at 9 a.m. the bidding. Well, the viewing is from 9 to 10, then the bidding starts at 10 o'clock.
All right.
So we encourage people to come out.
Great.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us, taking time out of your day to be here with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot.
Coming up, we'll explain why the Coast Guard opened fire on this fishing boat.
I'm in the Honors Program here at NIU. The Honors House is a place where honor students can live together. I lived in the Honors House as a freshman, so I got to meet people right off the bat. I was with students who were in the same kinds of classes as me. So living in the Honors House just meant I had that group to start off with. Living with other honors students made all the difference in my experience, so why go anywhere else?
Northern Illinois University. Learning today.
Leading tomorrow.
The Bulls got a key player back this past weekend.
That's right. Doug Rogers is here with sports. Doug, tell us about the Bulls.
Yeah, Derrick Rose is back in the lineup. It's good to see him back and healthy on the court.
Yeah.
It was the return of Derrick Rose at Madison Square Garden in New York, but would it be enough to beat the Knicks? There's D. Rose ready to go before the game. We'll pick it up in the final seconds of the fourth. Carmelo Anthony pulls up and nails the game-tying three, sends the game to overtime. And in overtime, it's Melo again for three, this time for the win. Melo spoils Rose's return. The Bulls drop this one 100-99. Now to the Blackhawks Red Wings. Last game of the season goes to a shootout. Patrick Kane skates in some nifty moves between his legs and puts it through Jimmy Howard's legs as he scores 5-hole. Hawks lead in the shootout, then it's up to Todd Bertuzzi for Detroit. He swings in on Corey Crawford, but he shuts the door on the Wings. Hawks win, and now they get ready to take on Phoenix in the playoffs. Well, the Cubs went into Sunday looking for their first win of the season after dropping the first two games in heartbreaking fashion. Starter Jeff Samardzija had to like what he saw out there of third baseman Ian Stewart. In the seventh, Jason Worth hits a shot down the line, but Stewart with the nice backhanded toss across from his knees. Then in the eighth, Stewart singles to center, scoring Starlin Castro. That would end up being the game-winning run as the Cubs get their first debut of the year. Samardzija gets the win, and the Cubs win 4-3. Now to the Sox in Arlington. They're looking for a series win against the Rangers. But Josh Hamilton had none of it. He hits a monster shot to the upper deck here in the sixth, put Texas up by 4. But Hamilton not done yet. He hurts you with the bat, and then he hurts you with the glove. Alejandro De Asa with a drive to the gap, but it's Hamilton there for the diving grab. Sox get shut out in Texas, 5-0. Well, NIU baseball played this weekend against Ohio, looking to add some much-needed debuts to their win column. The Huskies got off to a strong start in the first two innings, going up 2-0. Pitcher Taylor Naraki saved the Huskies in the first, throwing a string of Ks to hold off the Bobcats. And then there's some solid hitting by the Huskies, adding 2 runs in the bottom of the second. The Huskies looked like they were getting on base pretty easily in the inning, putting themselves in easy scoring position. There's Alex Beckman with a nice base hit, bringing in the man on third. But in the sixth, the Bobcats went up 4-2, and it was all downhill from there for NIU. The Bobcats would add 9 more runs to reach the final score of 13-2. Huskies fell again to the Bobcats on Sunday, losing both games in the series. And in sports notes today, tennis player Maxim Bartuk and softball player Danny Parrish are named NIU Scholar Athletes of the Week. NIU men's tennis lost a close match against Marquette yesterday, and in the Masters tournament at Augusta, Bubba Watson won his green jacket, beating out Louis Oosthuizen in the final round. And now it's time for today's play of the day. Let's go back to the Masters Pro Golf Tournament at Augusta. In the final round of play, Louis Oosthuizen blasts the approach shot on the par 5 at hole 2. It lands on the very front of the green and takes a slow roll towards the flag. It appears like it will come up short, but it's still going. Rolling, wait for it. This one has a chance though, and it tiptoes its way in the hole on the second shot on the par 5. That's a double eagle, folks. Oosthuizen finished second in the tournament, but he takes our play of the day. Well, no NIU sports going on today, but the Cubs are taking on the Brewers tonight at Wrigley. And the Sox are on the road against the Indians in Cleveland, so be sure to check that out. Aren't you glad baseball's back, George?
Of course. Very happy. Thanks, Doug.
A Japanese fishing boat that was adrift at sea for more than a year is now at the bottom of the Pacific. The so-called ghost ship was swept away last year in the tsunami that hit Japan. Officials say it posed an environmental hazard and was a threat to other ships. The Coast Guard opened fire with cannons, and it took more than 4 hours to sink.
Well, it looks like the fish at the bottom of the ocean will have a new ship to call home.
I just think it's really amusing Coast Guards are still using cannons.
Takes you back to the days of pirates, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for being with us, everybody.
And thanks for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll be back the same time tomorrow.
Bye.
NTC News Tonight is produced at the Northern Television Center by journalism students in the Department of Communication.